lead us in the invocation, and Commissioner Sims would lead us in our pledge.
Gracious Lord, Heavenly Father, Lord of the universe, Lord of all mankind, we thank you for this date and this night that you've given us. We thank you for this life that you've given us. We thank you for these opportunities that you've given us, Lord. We ask that this night will be fruitful in your eyes and that you will guide us and direct us in the best way that you know for us to go and go forward with for the better of this county. And ask all these prayers in Jesus Christ's holy name and for his sake, amen.
Amen.
Amen. If you would, please stand, salute the flag, recite for me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any comments or changes for the discussion, adjustment, and approval of the agenda? Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. First item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing. Petition TA 0620, a request by Jennifer Jack with Flex Deploys to modify the required minimum width of ingress and egress in the Person County Planning Ordinance Article 8, Section 81 to allow reduced width for access to non-residential structures without permanent on-site employees. So do we have a motion to go into a public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. And okay, Ms. Oakley.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I would like to state that all state statutes and planning ordinance requirements have been met for this public hearing, and I would like to submit my staff report into the record at this time.
It's in power now.
It's on. So petition TA 06-20 is a request by Flex Deploys to modify the required minimum width of ingress and egress in the Person County Planning Ordinance to allow for reduced width for access to non-residential structures without permanent on-site employees. So currently, Article 8, Section 81 of the Planning Ordinance states that vehicular travel lanes or driveways shall not be less than 20 feet in width for two-way traffic and 10 feet for one-way traffic. The applicant is proposing to add text, which is on the screen, a little hard to read, but it's in red on the screen, to allow non-residential structures without permanent on-site employees to have a 12-foot wide paved or gravel vehicular travel lane or driveway instead of the required 20 feet in width that is currently in the ordinance. This is the minimum width required to ensure emergency vehicles have adequate access to the site. So the new text would read that non-residential structures without permanent on-site employees may be permitted to have a 12-foot wide paved or gravel vehicular travel lane or driveway. In addition, staff proposes changing the requirement of one-way traffic to be a minimum of 12 feet, since again, this is the minimum width required to ensure emergency vehicles have sufficient access to the site. So that first, or the sentence I read previously would now read, vehicular travel lanes or driveways shall not be less than 20 feet in width for two-way traffic and 12 feet for one-way traffic. The applicant is requesting the reduction in width to be allowed for non-residential structures, again, without permanent on-site employees, In order to reduce construction costs and to reduce the impact on the underlying property, the applicant is proposing to provide a 12-foot wide in width access road, which would be sufficient for emergency vehicles. Staff did speak with neighboring jurisdictions, and the consensus was that the minimum width, which accommodates emergency vehicle access, would be needed. We confirmed that 12 feet is the minimum width to allow for sufficient emergency access. In an example where this text amendment would really apply the way that it was constructed, we didn't want it to apply to all commercial properties. So the way that it was written, it really would only apply to cell towers, broadband towers, and solar energy systems. So again, your typical commercial project would still be required to have a 20-foot wide or one-way at 12-foot wide, as what's currently proposed. Planning staff recommends approval of TA-06-20 to include both the applicant's proposed changes along with staff's proposed changes. The proposed text provides flexibility for non-residential structures without permanent on-site employees, while ensuring that emergency vehicles can access the site sufficiently. I do have the statement of reasonableness and consistency on the screen. It's also in your packets. And the board is required to refer to this statement when making a motion on the case. And lastly, at the December 10th, 2020 meeting of the planning board, the board voted unanimously 5-0 to recommend approval of TA-06-20 to include both the applicant's proposed changes and staff's proposed changes, and to also include the statement of reasonableness and consistency that was in the packet. If you have any questions of me at this time, I'd be happy to answer them.
What is the total length of the road or the driveway that's proposed?
Well, now, this would apply across the board, so it wouldn't just be case specific to the next one.
Okay, but so we're talking about 2 feet as a cost savings. Is that for?
Right, this one, I believe, is several hundred feet back into the site.
Okay.
Um,
And it applies to all commercial?
No, it only applies to, as it's written, non-residential structures without permanent on-site employees. So we tried to word it so that it wouldn't open up the doors to the Walmarts and to the Lowe's and to everyone else, to be very site-specific to a commercial business that, say, has an employee visit the site perhaps once a month.
Mm-hmm.
Which is typically, oh, I have a microphone, which is typically, just trying to scream through the mask, solar farms and, like we said, cell towers. So we really tried to craft this language. It was kind of unique. Kayla and I both came up with it to make sure that we didn't open this up to other commercial.
I was going to say,
enterprises.
because we don't want to have this come back and
Right.
bite us down the road because we did something silly here. Okay. Thank you.
I've got a question. In consideration with future development on the pump station coming hopefully out of the southern perimeter of Person County, there will need to be a pump station. So this is going to require some pretty large trucks in and out. And I don't know if this is, would you say 12 feet?
Currently, if they decided to do a one-way in and a one-way out, they could do 10 feet.
10 feet.
So as it's written, we're proposing to make it 12 feet, so to at least widen that one-way traffic. Now, what it would do for possibly a pump station that probably has staff visited, I don't know how often, not often, it would give them a 12-foot minimum travel lane, whereas under the current ordinance, there could potentially be 10. So
It's currently 10.
if they did one-way traffic,
okay.
an example of one-way is Tunnel Creek Winery. They have a one-way in and one-way out. I don't know if it's used, but they did 10 feet in and 10 feet out.
Okay, now if we have an
do
emergency,
examples of that.
if we have an emergency on site, this is not going to allow for emergency vehicles.
We contacted the fire marshal's office, also spoke with the fire inspector, who then talked with emergency services, and we were told that 12 feet would accommodate emergency vehicles.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
Yes, we definitely wanted to get them
Yeah,
accommodated.
thank you.
Any other board members have questions? Ms. Oakley? Now, if we public comment, anyone, we ask for that?
Brenda, do you have anyone sign up for public comment?
Yes. Chris Phillips has signed up to speak in favor and is joining us via Zoom.
Okay, then. We'll have, okay, thank you.
Vicky's doing it on this.
Oh, okay.
Not sure how it works. She is the applicant representing Flex Deploy.
You said Chris Kelly?
Yes.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Looks like he's unmuted. Do we need to invite him to speak?
He should be able to hear you. I think he should be able to speak now too.
Okay. Chairman, if you want to go ahead and call on the speaker, Chris Phillips, we believe he's unmuted on
Okay,
Zoom. I'm sorry.
yeah, Chris, yes, Chris,
trying.
go ahead, if you have comments, please.
I'm trying. Can you hear me?
Like they're speaking.
They're very quiet.
Can you hear me?
Yes, they're asking.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Our speaker does not seem to be working.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
right on.
So we may need to continue the public hearing, let IT fix the technical issues, and then continue the public hearing once we're able to have those folks
Okay,
participate.
well, was there a second person?
I believe there's only one speaker signed up.
That's correct.
Okay,
But the same speaker will be speaking for the next public hearing. So maybe we could take a brief recess from the public hearing and continue with our agenda maybe and come back to it.
Do you want me to email
Yes.
some of my cell numbers? You can call in?
We're gonna have an issue with all the other callers.
Right, so we need to go and get it fixed probably before.
Alrighty. So can we just announce a brief recess with this?
yeah, we'll do a brief recess and you want to pick up then on item 3?
Actually, we would need to go a little further, maybe item 5.
Okay. Item 5 on your agenda is discussion and adjustment and approval of consent agenda. Do I have a motion related to that? Any changes or additions, deletions, comments? Or a motion of approval?
Motion approved.
Have a motion to approve as presented. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none, motion carried. Under new business, item number 6, Person County Schools long-range plan.
Excuse me, are we going to have the public comments first, or are we going to skip that too?
I'm afraid we may have some people on joining us remotely who would want to speak.
Okay.
So we would need to come back until
Okay.
we get the technical issues fixed.
Yeah, but actually, I think we do not have anybody speaking remotely in informal comments.
So we're okay to proceed.
So we would
Oh, the
like-
wonderful world of
we would like
technology.
to do informal comments or come back to that.
Well, if you have,
Yes, we have one signed up, Mr. John C., who is here in person.
okay, Mr. C.
All right. How is everybody?
We're well, sir. Good to see you.
Great. All right. So first meeting of the year, I guess topic is we all want to see 2021 be better than 2020. So my part of that is I'm going to try to be clear. I'm going to have my presentations and my comments as crisp as possible. And so I came prepared this time with some notes. So my question would be, how can we make 2021 better for Person County? And I thought maybe I'd be falling behind your appointments where I wouldn't have to go into quite the detail, but I've got some stuff here. So part of the duty is Board of Commissioners is you guys get the honor and the responsibility of appointing qualified, knowledgeable, dedicated people to serve on various authorities, boards, commissions, and committees to assist in the operation of county government. And it's a team activity, obviously. So Person County currently has 38 of these identities. So I guess one of my questions would be, do they all have mission statements? Do they have a set of goals for 2021? If 2021 is going to be better than 2020, we need to have a plan to make it better. I attended a number of EDC meetings last year. I inquired for some details from the EDC. I was sent a bunch of information. There was 12 scheduled meetings for the EDC last year in 2020. 6 were canceled, 1 was rescheduled. So my question is, how does that reflect on the EDC and its efforts? Currently, North Carolina uses a 3-tiered designation system to evaluate a county's EDC funding at the state level. And counties are ranked using 4 factors. And they then rank the counties 1 to 100, 1 being the most distressed county. The 2021 ranking is now out, and Person County has dropped 15 county spots in the last 3 years. So it's gone from 67 to 52. So the 2020 ranking is 52. So my question is, what does this say about how well Person County is doing regarding economic development? At the very least, we'd like to, at least as the public, understand your definition of success, because that looks like we're going in the wrong direction. 10 years ago, Person County had 400 more jobs than today. I'm almost at my 1-year anniversary in Person County on the date of my closing. And my question is, how is this possible when North Carolina has ranked in the top 5 states for being business friendly over the last 10 years? During November's EDC meeting that I was at, it was stated that there was plenty to address for December's meeting, so that all of us that were concerned about the number of meetings that got canceled during the year could be assured that December's meeting would not be canceled. Guess what? It was canceled. Don't know why. And this is what we mean when we as the public ask for transparency within our government. It has long-term goals, or at least aspirations, due to the fact that so much focus is being put on the mega site, but should also have short-term goals that support that long-term aspiration or goal, as well as the rest of the county development. I've looked, but I can't find it. There's no mission statement. There's no targeted goals with dates. I can't find anything that gives us reason to be patient and calm about a long-term plan or goal. If our EDC is going to go pursuing such long-term items, they should also be prepared and willing to keep the public informed, so we are patient and supportive rather than doubting and frustrated. This would all make 2021 better. So I guess you got to have a meeting, and you got to have a meaningful agenda. And you got to have some goals. And that goes for all the committees and organizations that you're going to appoint people to, at least from the county commissioner's standpoint this evening. So I ask each of you and the staff, are you satisfied with what's happening and the level of critical information that's being provided to the public? Do boards and committees have direction from county commissioners and staff? What is the direction? Is it public? How does this direction reflect in their goals and what each board and committee is accomplishing? Some of these boards are more critical than others, but how often do they report to the Board of Commissioners? Can it be in front of the public, considering and in reflection of their goals and their plans? In other words, there should be some appreciate your time and your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Continue now with the Preston County School Long-Range Plan. 2021 VP Officer.
Dr. Rodney Peterson.
this evening. Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners, hope everyone's had a great Christmas and off to a wonderful new year. Every 5 years, the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction requires each county to submit a school plan based on the needs of their facilities. And this is the year that Percy County is required to turn in this needs assessment. I'm not sure if you recall, but in 2017, this board or the commissioners created a facility study. And in 2018, that facility study was put into on paper. So what we've asked the consultant that did the facility audit was to then turn around and do a needs assessment for us to turn into the state. And so our board signed off on that information at their December board meeting, but it requires the chairman of commissioners and Ms. York to do the same, acknowledging that that the needs on there are not, you don't have to, let me rephrase it. It is not a requirement for physical funding. It's just acknowledgement that a facility audit was completed. And so that's what we're asking for tonight is the signature.
Okay. Is that it? Any questions of Dr. Peterson? Okay, that needs a motion.
So we're just, right now, this is just an audit that was completed.
Yes, ma'am. And it required a capacity audit. It required a 0 to 5 plan and a 6 to 10 plan. And I think we're still, in terms of conversation, we're waiting on the debt consultant to figure out our next phase of what we need to do with information from the audit. This is the wish list. Yes, ma'am.
This motion is it's a procedural motion, right?
That's right. So we have to just sign off saying that we received the facility audit. It's not an endorsement of it. It doesn't commit any funding to it, but it is a technical approval of receipt of the.
Basically what the Department of Public Instruction just says that we've given you the information.
That's right.
Yeah.
We do hope to have the superintendent and maybe some of his board members present a more formal plan addressing some of the most pressing needs of the audit as we ease into the budget process. And Dr. Peterson and I will work on a mutual time to have that conversation with all of you.
What I will say in our December superintendent's meeting with the new Department of Instruction superintendent, there is conversation around possibility in the long session of having another invitation put out there for the state to have a state bond referendum. This information would be what we would be submitting for a state bond if there were a request that would be done.
Makes sense.
So do we need a motion?
We do. Yes, sir.
I will make that motion.
And so we have a motion to approve the request. Further discussion or questions? Nope. All in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your board members being here.
Thank you.
Brought your group with you. That's good.
Chairman, at this time, IT says we will try to confirm if Ms. Phillips is available online and they will rectify the issue.
Okay, so we'll go back then.
Actually, if Chris per year, he said he could test it for us. You could try speaking, Chris. Not a good sign. All right, Chris, are you there?
Hello?
Okay.
I'm here, yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, that's good.
Hey,
All right, if you hear me, then we should be good to go. We can move forward however you guys see necessary.
Lori, can you hear me? Lori, you can hear me?
She's super quiet still.
I think we can hear her though.
Can you hear me, Lori?
Yes.
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 Okay. Thank you. I'm really just here to answer questions, so.
Okay, questions from board members?
I don't have any that Lori hasn't already answered for me.
There does not appear to be any questions.
Well, that's excellent.
While I figure that out,
But don't go away.
yeah, don't go away.
I'll stay here.
Okay, then, well, I guess we just need to go out of the public hearing.
That's correct.
Yeah, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. And then next item would be consideration to grant or deny request by Jennifer Jack with Flex Employees to modify the requested minimum width of ingress and egress of the Person County Plan and Ordinance, Article 8, Section 81, to allow the reduced width for access to non-residential structures without permanent on-site employees. What is the pleasure of the board?
Motion to
I make a
approve.
motion, we accept that.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept.
Staff's recommendation with that motion and the statement of reasonableness and consistency. Yeah.
Okay, do we need to go ahead and read that through for you?
You don't have to read it. You can just reference it. And I just wanted to make sure that it included staff's recommended changes as well.
Okay, so the recommendation is to approve with the recommendation of the staff's reasonable and consistency statement as
Thank you.
outlined.
Thank you.
Okay, so that completes the motion. Is that
Yes.
right? Laura, you okay with that?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
All in favor of the motion as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Non-motion carried. Okay, that's all for that one. Item number 3 is a public hearing. Petition SUP 0320, a request by Jennifer Jack and Flex Employees on behalf of Joey and Christy Witt to construct a new 199-foot tall self-supporting communications tower on 21 acres located at 1550 Julian Oakley Road, taxed map and parcel A3-128 in the RC or Rural Conservation Zoning District. So do we have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Motion to go into open or public hearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. Motion carried. Okay.
This public hearing is set to hear the special use permit request, as you've so called out, requires a quasi judicial zoning decision whereby witnesses are to be sworn in as subject to cross-examination, no ex parte communication, and requires findings of fact. Chairman Powell, I would ask for you to administer the oath of sworn testimony or to affirm for Ms. Oakley, Lori Oakley, as well as Chris Phillips attending virtually.
Okay, so everybody's set. Everybody can hear. And please state your name.
I, Lori Oakley.
I, Chris Phillips.
Is that it? There's only two. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as testimony offered in the public hearing for a special use permit request, petition SUP 0320 by Jennifer Jack with Flex Employees on behalf of Joey and Christy Witt to construct a new 199-foot tall self-supporting communications tower on 21 acres located at 1550 Julian Oakley Road and tax map and partial 103-128 in the RC or Rural Conservation Zoning District.
Can I just say yes, because I can't repeat all that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Come on.
Ms. Phillips, if you can affirm.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, okay. Oakley.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd like to state that all state statutes and planning ordinance requirements have been met for this public hearing, and I'd like to submit my staff report into the record at this time. The request that you have tonight before you is for a special use permit for a 199-foot tall self-supporting communications tower. Currently, the subject property, which is outlined in red on the screen, is wooded and vacant. The property is currently zoned RC, Rural Conservation. To the north of the property is a single-family dwelling and vacant wooded land zoned RC. To the east, you have Julian Oakley Road and several single-family dwellings that are zoned RC. To the south, you have a single-family dwelling also zoned RC, and to the west, you have some vacant wooded land that's currently under a conservation easement. And just to the south of that property, you have a single-family dwelling as well, and those are both zoned RC. This is just a zoning map for you that you can see all the surrounding area is zoned rural conservation. The subject property is currently vacant and zoned RC. The property is located within the Tar-Pamlico watershed, and the applicant has proposed to meet all relevant watershed regulations. The subject property contains floodplain, but the applicant is not proposing to develop in the floodplain area. The applicant is requesting to construct a new unmanned 199-foot tall self-supported broadband telecommunications tower along with a gravel access road onto the subject property. The site plan was included in your packet. You can see Julian Oakley off to the east with, and again, I'm not sure of that exact measurement. That is that access road that we talked about previously into the site. The cell tower, or the telecommunications tower being at the rear. That's kind of a zoomed in area of the site plan. As you can see, you have the tower in the very middle of this area, along with the access road coming in on the south, 2 parking spaces, along with a turnaround area, and a barbed wire fence surrounding the tower. The Person County Land Use Plan identifies the proposed site as rural residential and agricultural, and that district includes low-density residential uses, agricultural uses, and limited commercial, office, and institutional uses. Appendix O of the Land Use Plan lists the goals and objectives for the county, 2 of which this project would meet, which is promoting an orderly and efficient land use development pattern, which allows for a variety of land uses, and also provide for a strong local planning environment that enhances the economic growth potential of Person County. Planning staff recommends that if the board recommends approval of this request, that the following conditions be placed on the special use permit, and that is that its approval is contingent upon the approval of TA 0620, which happened on the previous item agenda, and also that the applicant is to obtain all permits necessary from the Person County Departments of Environmental Health, Planning and Zoning, building inspections, and any applicable state permits that might be needed. At the December the 10th, 2020 Planning Board meeting, the board voted unanimously to recommend approval of SUP 03-20 to include staff's recommended conditions. And I do have the 4 findings of fact on the screen in front of you. I would ask that you reference the 4 findings of fact when making a decision. And if you have any questions of me at this time, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions of Ms. Oakley?
Timeline on this, once they get started, you know what the timeline is to complete it?
Well, that might be a question for the applicant. I'm not sure if it's on the plans, but I think Chris might know the answer to that. If she's there.
She may not.
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Once we receive zoning approval, we'll move into the application for the building permit. And once that is received, they will start construction as soon as possible.
Do you
So
know-
within the next quarter, I would say.
Okay, timeline to complete, I guess, just curious, because I'm assuming this is going to happen.
It generally takes about a month to construct it, and this one has a significant access road, so it may be a little bit longer.
Okay. How much will be on the towers as far as communications?
So this tower is planned for rural broadband deployment. So it will be utilized to bring high-speed wireless internet access. It will be made available to other carriers that would need to utilize the structure, but at this point, it's only planned to be utilized by River Street Networks for their broadband deployment.
What's the range? The range.
I believe it's up to 2 miles.
Can that be improved down the road?
For broadband? It really depends on how many subscribers they have. It can go further, but again, it depends on how many subscribers they have and what the demand is on their network.
Are there federal or state regulations prohibiting the range that they're able to reach?
No. They operate under licensed frequency, so that's what's regulated by the federal government. Excuse me.
It's the frequency.
The frequencies are regulated, yes.
Does that tie in any way with our current broadband effort?
Yes, actually, this is a area that's strongly underserved
Okay.
with broadband access. I recall when we did the surveys that this was one area that needed an additional tower in order to serve. We've not been able to serve them with the 4 towers. So we've gotten a lot of complaints from residents out of this area, and it's our hope that River Street now has a solution to provide access to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
that's correct.
Complaints about that almost daily or weekly.
Yeah, that's why I was saying the frequency, that's regulated by the FCC.
That's right.
So I guess what I'm questioning, and I don't know if I'm going to get an answer right now, but I'd like to know is how do we get that improved? If it only goes 2 miles, how do we get it to go 4 miles or 5 miles or whatever to meet the next need? And that's maybe not going to be answered right here, but that's something I'm going to want to know in the future, because that's really important to this county, especially in terms of growth and staying plugged in. We've got to have the broadband access. So
it's difficult to service a large area. The frequency, it diminishes over, if you go beyond 2 miles, the signal starts to diminish. So it's hard to serve a large area with just one site.
okay. Is the technology on the horizon going to get any better where this improves?
I do not know. I'm not a radio frequency engineer. I'm a real estate person. But as we stand right now, this is what we have. I mean, there's certainly always technology that's improving and innovating.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it will be a good addition within the next maybe 4 to 6 months. It'll be operational. That would be good for the county.
That's their target. Yes, they want to have it online this year. So as I said, construction will start as soon as they can get the building permit and get their contractors in line. And their hope is to get it online in the fall.
Thank you.
That's very good. Any other questions or comments? No other public
No, sir.
comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carried. Item number 4, consideration to grant or deny request by Jennifer Jack and Flex Deploys on behalf of Joy and Christy Witt to construct a new 199-foot tall self-supporting communications tower on 21 acres located at 1550 Julian Oakley Road, tax map and parcel A103-128 in the rural or RC or rural conservation zoning district. What is the pleasure of the board?
Make the motion, we go with this. Accept this.
Have a motion to approve. Any other discussion?
With it meeting this.
Don't need to read that.
You can just
The
reference
board-
that it meets the
Do
four
what?
findings.
What?
You can just reference that it meets the four findings of fact without reading them all.
Recommending that the support of findings with this motion.
Okay, any other discussion? If none, then all in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you,
Lori.
Ms. Oakley.
Yeah, thanks,
Appreciate it.
Lord. Appreciate it.
So we don't have any other informal comments.
No, sir. We
Okay.
can now go to the resolution authorizing the relocation of graves.
Item 7.
And that one is
And
Ron
I
A.
think our
Cobb.
county attorney,
Yeah.
Ron A. Cott, will be introducing this item.
Okay, item number 7, and Ron A. Cock, you're up.
Mr. Chairman and board members, I hope that you can hear me.
We can.
State law gives lots of responsibilities to county commissioners, sometimes surprising in what your breadth of authority is, including the authority to authorize removal and relocation of graves. Sunrock Quarry Company owns, as you know, a quarry which they lease from Hall's Agri Service. They have discovered an old cemetery on that property. They authorized a study by an archaeological firm, and that study indicated that it may be a cemetery that dates back to the early 1800s. There was some evidence that both whites and blacks are buried in the cemetery. The study is required by state law to determine whether all of the grave sites are located. State law requires careful examination of the site. State law requires the removing party to bear all the expenses of removal. Those expenses include a publication in the newspaper of the intent to remove. Sunrock has prepared all the necessary documents and is prepared to publish the required notice. Additionally, the Board of Commissioners is required to authorize the health director to supervise these activities. The health director has been contacted and has assigned the environmental health director to supervise these activities. I'm not sure, because I don't see the full audience, whether representatives of Sunrock are in attendance. Their governmental liaison person, Ronnie Goswick, has been our contact. If there are questions, and if Mr. Goswick or other Sunrock people are in attendance, they may be able to help you as well. It is a fairly perfunctory action that you take. We prepared a resolution for you to adopt, which sets forth the findings and the actions of the board. We also attached a copy of the archaeological report. If there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Mr. Aycock, this is Ronnie. I am with you.
All right, I'm not sure there's anything else, Mr. Chairman, that you would want to ask of Mr. Goswick, but he may know more details about the practical aspects of this.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to know, when we're talking about moving or investigating moving these grave sites, where will the grave sites be moved to? Is there any been discussion on where they will go, where they would be relocated?
I believe so, but Mr. Goswick can probably answer that question.
Yes, sir. We have identified a site close to Woodsdale Road that would be easy, accessible for anyone that would like to visit the sites. That property is owned by Sunrock, and we will dedicate that for a grave site.
I guess my next question also will be, I know it's kind of this, we're talking about going way back in history, but is there any chance at all that we're going to be dealing with any relatives that will have an issue with this that could come up later saying they had someone, great grandpa or grandma that was buried there? Is there a situation that we need to worry about that?
That is a reason for the public notice. I believe that the Sunrock Company has examined and tried to find any relatives, and have not been successful, but just to make sure the notice in the newspaper is intended to give public notice to any relatives or anyone else who might have an interest in the gravesite.
Is there a clear chain of title to the property right now?
There is. It came from the Woods family. Thus, the Woodsdale Road, I guess, was where it came from, and went to the current owners through their mother's father, the Berry Hills.
The information that I've seen is that the chain of title went to the Berry Hill Hall family a couple of generations ago and has been in that family for that long.
So it would be past the point of somebody coming back and laying claim to it then?
I believe that is the case, yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure.
Mr. Goswick, if it's relocated to the location that you spoke of, that's still on the property that Sunrock leases from Hall Agribusiness, is that right?
Actually, the property that we would locate it is owned by Sunrock. We bought a section of land there to make an entrance into the quarry. Later on, we decided to change that entrance. So this is an abandoned entry into the Sunrock quarry.
Okay.
So it's owned by Sunrock.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And you're donating the land for this purpose, then where's the land being donated to?
I'm not sure who would be buying the land, but we are donating the land to the gravesite.
Madam Commissioner, I believe what will happen is that the Sunrock will comply with the state statutes which provide for a formal dedication of the property for that purpose. And there are laws regulating that use, awfully hard to change that use. In fact, it would probably come back before Board of Commissioners, just as this issue has come up, for the commissioners to authorize a relocation if it happens. So the state law is fairly clear that a cemetery is dedicated for that purpose and cannot be used for other purposes unless we use this procedure that is before you tonight.
But then who owns the property and who maintains it?
It will be owned, the legal title will still be in Sunrock, but that title will be, that use of the property will be restricted to a cemetery use.
Forever.
Until county commissioners might change it like you're considering tonight.
All right, so Sunrock then has to maintain this cemetery? Just curious.
Yeah, they are the owners of the property,
Okay.
and they are dedicating it for the sole use of cemetery.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, question.
Yes, sir.
Several. Is this cemetery in a family name? Do we know who the family too many families buried there. Are the family residents still in the area?
Mr. Goswick may be able to give more detail. My reading of the archaeological report is the archaeologists attempted to determine the names of those buried. They found some, they were unable to find others. It does not appear to be a single family's cemetery.
Okay, do we have an actual number of grave sites?
That is in the archaeological report. Mr. Goswick may be able to give more detail.
We have identified 12 sites and possibly one additional. There was a sunken area, but no headstone or footstone for that grave. So once we start disinterring those graves, we will make room for all graves that we find. But the max we see right now is 13.
There is a plan, as they have proposed it, to very carefully remove some of the topsoil so that they can search for other graves if they have not been discovered thus far.
So how many headstones are on this property? Or are they just marked with rocks, fieldstone?
It's 12, best we could count is 12 graves, headstones. And we are working with Brooks and White Funeral Home. They have to be involved. A funeral home has to be involved in this process. So we will be working with Mr. White.
Okay, and I think they have a sonar machine where they can pull across the land.
Probably.
Yeah, and I think the archaeological study did that also.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions?
If there are no more questions, then the recommendation is for the board to adopt the resolution that was prepared for you and presented with the agenda package.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Motion to move to adopt resolution.
Can we have a motion to adopt the resolution as presented? Any further discussions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. Item number 8 on the agenda is submission of fiscal year 2020-2021 community service. Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us this evening. Again, my name is Shatara Williams. I'm the program coordinator for CSBG programs at Telamon Corporation. Telamon is a multi-state private nonprofit organization. We're over 50 years old, and we started by providing services to farm workers in rural North Carolina counties and have since expanded to 11 states where we provide a variety of programs to include Head Start, housing and finance programs, and workforce and career programs, which is what Project Pride is. Project Pride stands for Personal Responsibility in Daily Endeavors. We are first and foremost a self-sufficiency program that helps people to realize their personal education and career goals by helping to eliminate or mitigate against some of the barriers that get in their way. So as a designated community action agency, which is an agency that is close to the community, involves lots of community feedback. That's part of the reason why we're here, is to involve the public and the Board of Commissioners to make them aware of the funding available in these counties and how we plan to use it. With these funds, we, with Project Pride, provide services such as case management. We pay for books and tuition. We pay for childcare and transportation assistance. When we have the funding and we're able to do emergency assistance, pay for food, clothing. We've been helping with utilities, rent for people. We also help with uniforms, tools for work. In addition to the CSBG funding, we also have CARES Act funding that we received in the spring. And that funding allows us to help people impacted by the pandemic, and that's strictly emergency assistance. So whether they need rent, utilities, PPE, assistance with childcare because they're an essential worker, that's another layer of services that we're able to provide. The funding that we are applying for is $320,267. And that funding helps us to maintain our staff. There are 4 of us. And we are co-located in the Reedsville NC Works Center, where we're normally, under normal circumstances, pretty accessible to the public. But we are currently meeting people because the center is closed by appointment only, and also traveling to meet people or meeting in safe spaces where we can socially distance, but still enroll people, provide case management, and help them meet their goals. I think that's mostly it in a nutshell. Are there any questions about the application?
Questions? No questions? Okay, then do we have a motion related to this request?
Motion to approve the request, excuse me.
We have a motion to approve the request for community services block grant. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Good job.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Item number 9 on the agenda is contract award for the construction for the Raleigh Regional Airport at Person County. Manager York and Mr. Fishy.
I'm taking this one.
You're taking, okay.
Representing solo here, but I have several of the team members present who are available to answer questions. So I will introduce and recognize them as we go through this item. After a competitive request for proposals process was undertaken back this fall for the construction of our new corporate hangar, as well as site work and utility improvements, the vendor chosen is Southeastern Properties and Development Company. They're selected for this contract, and the total amount of this contract proposed right now is $4,083,051. So just over $4 million is what the scope of this project has now been narrowed down to. And so I need to talk through the funding sources. They have to be secured before we can award the contract. And I want to make sure that the board is comfortable with where the sources of the funds for this contract would be coming from. So the county had budgeted in its capital improvement plan $3.6 million in capital project funds this year. And then we also received some federal funds to support the airport, which we call non-primary entitlement funds. So we are able to use some of those. We've already used for some of the site prep work. And then we get those on an annual basis, and we are configuring to reserve those funds over the next 3 years to also support this project. So for a total of $950,000 worth of this non-primary entitlement funding will go to help support the cost of this project. So even with that, there remains a deficit in the project, despite some reductions in scope. There's a deficit of approximately $193,000. So we would ask that the board would fund the remainder of this project through your fund balance. But because we're using these non-primary entitlement funds of future years, which are not yet in hand, I have to ask the board to support the full price of the project in order to award the contract. So we would need to appropriate $681,816 from your general fund balance to support this project in order to award the contract to our vendor, our Southeastern Properties and Development Company is their official name. This company received the unanimous recommendation from the Airport Commission Board, the airport manager, and also Talbert and Bright, who's the county's airport consultants.
They were the lowest responsible bidder for the airport hangar construction project. And then it's their recommendation that we award this contract tonight to get this project moving forward. Representing, let me introduce who we have here in case you have specific questions. So representing the Airport Commission Board, I have our chair, Henry Newell. Our airport manager, Bill Tugis, is here. And then I have Steve Bright and Stephen Bright from Talbert and Bright, the consulting company. They are both joining us via Zoom. And I think that's it. Commissioner Powell and myself both serve on the Airport Commission Board as well and are available for questions that you might have.
I don't have any questions. I sat in on the meeting when they went through this and it was very informative. And the only question, well, I guess I do have a question. I have always questions. How many years are we going forward? 2-3 years?
I think it's 3 years. Steve Bright, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I know this year and at least 2 additional years of that non-primary entitlement federal funding will be pledged towards the project. It's a good.
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. It's FY 21, 22, and 23. And actually the FY 21 funds should become available this year about September, 1st of October. And that would probably be before the project is complete and closed out. So you would actually be advancing 2 years that you would need to actually spend that money to finish the project.
Good investment.
Any further questions? Comments?
Chairman.
Yes.
This is the total project cost, extending the runway. It's just the hangar and sewer.
Right. This does not include the runway extension. This is the site work. There is some apron work along the runway, but it's not the official runway extension project. It includes the construction of the hangar along with some office space attached to that as well.
What is the name of that road that's going to have to be moved?
Yeah, this is not part of that project.
Not part of that.
No, that's a future project.
Should be a state. State should have to fund that road.
Yeah.
Redirection.
I'm not quite there yet. Those project funds have not been secured.
Totally different project.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, again, could you run the basic numbers again about what we're committing about what, 680? How much are we committing for?
Yes, we would be committing $681,816 of general fund balance towards this project so that we can sign a contract to begin the work.
After the 3 years, our total, as far as what we're putting in, was going to be how much?
Well, we'll be getting some of the non-primary entitlement funds, but there are also match money required for that. This amount will cover all of that match, so there wouldn't be any additional funds, but I can't tell you what the total balance would be right at this moment for what we would have put in at the completion of the project. The total contract award right now is just over $4 million. We've already put in 3.6 million, and so we're asking for an additional 681,000.
Okay.
And I think important to, are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. During the process, we learned that there were $400,000 worth of sewer work that
was not budgeted.
Have to be done that was not in there originally. Either way, either we do the project or not, we still have that $400,000 to do the sewer improvement. We've got to do it.
That's
so that's rolled all into this anyway. So that's good. You know, I've been a strong supporter of this. I think it would be a major improvement, as I think most of us sitting around this table can say from an economic standpoint for Person County. We're moving in the right direction here because this is an economic development tool. And the benefactors would be the citizens of Person County. This is not a recreational airport. This is This is business. This is economic growth and development. And I think it's something that's much needed and would improve our status from the economic development standpoint quite a bit as we go forward. So again, I think the citizens of the county would be the benefactors when we are recruiting industry and business to have these larger aircrafts based here. And in your packet as well, there was some information about the tax money that would come into the county, and I don't.
Yeah, I put that just at the bottom of your agenda abstract.
It's somewhere.
Yeah, we were estimating.
So this is like when we get the aircraft based here, it's officially based just like an automobile or house. Then the taxes are applied to it just like any of those items I just mentioned. And there was part of that tax base also goes to the volunteer fire department. What is that?
Right.
$12,000, $13,000, which is a small amount of money. But I think the beauty point of this is that it's a revenue income. It's not an outgo. Typically, you think of government business as spending money and you don't have any return. With this project, it would. And it may take 10 years to pay for itself, but so be it. It's better than expending that money and not having any return on your investment. So again, I think it's a project well thought out. We got some good people running the airport, and we do have prospects. Of course, we can't get those prospects without a building to house them. So anyway, those are my comments related to that. Anyone else? Any questions?
No, I think like I said, I sat in that meeting and I thought it was very, very easy to understand and very necessary. Competitive position with other counties that are ahead of us in this game. So it's playing catch up. It's good for us.
They are.
I think it's pretty cut and dry. The longer you wait, the more the cost is going to go up. Let's move.
Well, we suffered part of that this year because of the pandemic, and you're right, Mr. Palmer. That'll go up. If no other questions, do we have a motion? What's the desire of the board?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you. Board of Commissioners 2021 committee assignments. I think we all have that in our packet, the committees and the assignments, and I don't know if you have any questions or comments on those. Anybody? I think probably some of you have already spoken with Brendan, have they, about the times and the meeting dates and getting all that together.
And at your seat for the new commissioners, you may have seen there's a copy of this attached paper clipped with some committee information about the dates and locations of the meetings. But if there's anything else we can do, let us know.
Okay, those committees are important because they bring citizens into the work and functions of the county, and so they're all important. And I would suggest if there are any vacancies on your particular assignments to sort of recruit, if possible, someone to fill those spots. Sometimes it's not easy, but I think they're all important. They're important enough to try to fill any and all vacancies along that line. So does that one take a motion, Brenda?
No, sir.
No, okay.
If
right.
Everybody's in consensus.
Everybody's happy. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 11, appointments to boards and committees. Ms. Reeves.
Yes, I'd like to present some interested citizen applications for current vacancies that have been received in response to an ad that was recently published in the local newspaper. All the ones before you this evening are non-contested, so there's no need for any informal interviews, but I'll go through them one at a time. The Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee, There's 3 positions available, and we had Miss Charlene Wilkins requesting reappointment. May I have the desire of the board?
Move to approve.
So moved.
All in favor of, we're going to take this separately, one at a time.
It's up to you if you want to. I can read them all and have one motion, or we can
have.
I make a motion that we go ahead and read them all.
Okay.
And one motion for everybody. Okay. All right. The next one would be an airport commission. We have 1 citizen at large position available. Dr. Anderson White has requested reappointment on that committee. The Animal Services Advisory Committee has a vacancy for a veterinarian and 1 position for a citizen. Ms. Kathy Williams has requested appointment as the citizen capacity. For the Board of Adjustment, we actually have a seat to fill an unexpired term to December 31st of 2022. Ms. Cynthia Lynch, who is the current alternate on the Board of Adjustment, has requested to be moved from an alternate position to fulfill the unexpired voting term of PJ Gentry, who resigned her seat when she became an elected official. The alternate seat will be advertised should you choose Ms. Lynch to serve as the voting member on the Board of Adjustment. Additionally, for the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council, we have a reappointment request from Ms. Martha Pickett, who serves as the substance abuse professional on the JCPC. Also, Ms. Catherine Cathy, our Assistant County Manager, is requesting an appointment to fulfill the unexpired term to December 31st of 2022, formerly filled by Laura Jensen, who is no longer with Preston County as the county manager's designee. Planning Board, we have 2 positions available. Ms. Tabitha George is requesting reappointment to that board, and Ms. Zakia James is requesting appointment. The Regional K Agent Advisory Council, we actually have 6 positions available, and Mr. Robert Allen has submitted an application for reappointment to that one. That concludes the applications that were received as read.
Now we have a motion.
Make a motion that we accept those who have been read, names that have been read for those positions.
No motion. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Chairman's report. One follow-up to a comment last month about Cardinal Innovations placement of a person at Department of Social Services. That should be filled maybe sometime in February. I don't know if that's been communicated to you yet, but there'll be, a much needed position there for especially the children of Harrison County. One other thing that I would like to do maybe in this little section, we can take it up there rather than an agenda item, but get some direction for this board going forward for the hiring of a new county attorney.
Yes.
What would be the recommended next steps? I think we've comment.
Yeah, we've got one resume from Mr. Wilkinson, who's been highly recommended to us. He's a former elected official. He's got municipal government experience, and he is as local as we can get someone qualified. I believe he's in Oxford.
Okay, now is this something we would need to advertise, or how do we go about that?
No.
It's really up to the board. So this is an appointment that the board makes. We can do an advertisement. I see lots of other counties who handle it this way. You can advertise in the newspaper, the County Commissioners Association, websites, whatever you would like, just soliciting resumes for a county attorney if that is the desire of the board. Alternatively, you could secure, interested individuals that you may have had conversations with and bring them into closed session to conduct some form of an interview. Staff is available to assist in any way that you would like to go. If you'll just let us know I'm happy to pull up a job description if that would be helpful, if you'd like to run an ad, or if not, we can.
Mr. Chair, I know that I would certainly like to pursue local attorneys that are here. And there may be some that do not know that we have the opening. I know we're a small town, but I think, word of mouth, people may already know, but they may not. I certainly think we need to probably advertise that and give our local attorneys an opportunity to apply for this position, and then we take a look at our applicants at that time.
Okay.
Okay, is that going to be a 30-day?
We typically run an ad for 30 days just to give folks the opportunity to submit a resume, but again,
Come up in the February meeting.
We can
maybe we just
sure.
So we'll run ahead and see how it turns out.
Why don't I craft the job description in an ad and send that to the board for review, and then we'll get that
That's
run.
a good idea, because I mean, I would assume that we would want experience in municipal government matters.
Sure.
And that's not a common thing in a smaller community. So I just want to make sure that we're getting somebody that kind of is geared up and can work with government issues.
I will draft some qualifications and send it to you all for your input. And if you'll send it back to me, I can make sure that it meets all of the board's interests. Do you want that brought back at the next meeting, or do you want to just handle it via email?
I think we can do it by email.
Okay.
I'm good.
I'll work on that this week.
Yeah. Get the process going.
Thank you.
Move along. That's all I have in my report, Manager York.
Yeah, while I have our health director still in the audience, I did want to take the opportunity to let you all know that the vaccination clinics that the health department has been running have already filled all of the appointment time slots that they had scheduled for this week. And so they have scheduled 2 new drive-through vaccination clinics scheduled for the 13th and the 14th to be held in the Palace Point parking lot. The same individuals that are eligible for the ones that are running this week would be eligible for those drive-throughs. Nobody else. We're still in that first phase with those eligibility folks. So wanted to get the word out. We're putting it on social media, on websites, media releases, but those clinics will be on a first come, first serve basis rather than appointments. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Janet? I just wanted to make sure that we're getting that word out publicly. It's very important. And we are getting so many calls about how folks can be vaccinated that we just want to make sure that we're getting accurate information out there to our residents.
Yes, as County Manager York mentioned, this week we have 2 days scheduled for our 75 and older population. Those days have filled up. So rather than scheduling something else and trying to manage appointments, we're doing a drive-through event. Palace Point is working very closely with us, and we will have that next week on Wednesday and Thursday from 10 to 5. This morning when we opened our doors, we have literally received hundreds of phone calls. We have taken those names and numbers. Those spots have been filled up, and we are returning those phone calls. I had staff working late tonight, and they will continue returning those same phone calls tomorrow. We're working down the list. So if you do hear from our citizens that they did not hear back today, we have posted a message on our Facebook page, but we are working, they will receive a return phone call. But we are following the guidelines of the state DHHS department in regards to phases. So we are still in phase 1. They realigned their priority groups last week to align with the state ACIP. So that has moved. Originally, it dealt mostly with chronic conditions, but now they're basing it more on age. So that is why we are doing 75 and older this week instead of individuals with chronic health conditions. Last week, we did have 2 all-day clinics for our health professionals in the community, where we reached out and we set up windows of time so they could come through, and we're still working with our health professionals to make sure that they receive the vaccine if they desire. So.
Mr. Chair, I was just wondering, Jane, what is our count right now with the coronavirus? How many positives and deaths have we had?
Earlier today, we had 1,753 cases and then 21 deaths. But I do know those numbers have increased throughout the day. I just do not have an exact total at this time.
Are you expecting a spike?
Yes, I am expecting a spike after the holidays. We saw a vast increase after Thanksgiving.
Is staff in the front line getting vaccinated as well as the 75 and older population?
Yes, if they are considered frontline health, there are certain criteria, then they could go ahead and receive the vaccine. After the 75 and older, the next group includes our other first responders, such as police and fire. It goes down to our educators. So we have already reached out to those entities, all 4 LEAs that we have here in town, as well as our HR directors for the county and the city to receive the employee names who are interested so we can get those times scheduled. But that group comes after the 75 and older.
How many people are in that roughly? Just, you know, how many hundrds of people are in that group? But
right,
we've got our share in Person County.
Yeah,
So
that's the question I've been waiting to ask. So you already had 2 days, and now you have 2 more scheduled. But to her point, yeah.
The purpose of the drive-through is to move more people through quicker. Because you have to, after you receive the vaccine, you are supposed to wait 15 minutes before you leave. So right now we have the 2 clinics this week scheduled in the FEMA room. So space is an issue. So with the drive-through, there will be a designated parking area for individuals to wait, and our EMS partners will be monitoring the people in their cars for any adverse reactions that may occur.
Any bad cases or reactions so far? No, good. Okay, good. That's good. That's good news. That's
But
good
how many
news.
people in Person County are in that group, 75 and older, that you expect to show up?
Well, I know that based on the calls today, I would expect several hundred because we already have appointments for about 175.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You
Thanks
know
for
how
all you're
many you've
doing
done?
in trying times.
Did you have
so
a
much.
count number for how many you had already administered?
As of Friday, no, not Friday, we were not here, Thursday evening, we had administered roughly around 190 just at the health department. That does not include the hospital, who are working with their health professionals. And then today we started working with the group homes or residential care homes who were not already signed up with the federal program for one of the pharmacies to come in. So we're working through, they actually are priority above the 75 and older. So we're trying to finish those out. They should be finished by Wednesday at noon. And then we will move to our 75 and older. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
I thank you and your department for everything you're doing.
yeah, thank you.
It's a difficult time.
Thank you. It's definitely a team effort.
Please thank your staff.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clayton.
That's all I have.
Okay, that's all?
That was all.
Okay, is Commissioner Puryear on the phone?
Commissioner Puryear?
Yes, no, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for accommodating me. I apologize for not being due to something unforeseen here at work, but I appreciate the county manager and the board accommodating me here tonight.
Thank you for joining us on the phone, Commissioner Palmer.
No comments.
Commissioner Gentry.
Do I have a comment? Yes.
Mine's going to be lengthy.
I didn't know if you could, oh, really?
Yeah.
All right. I just want to say that it was brought up and Mr. Steve mentioned about transparency in some of our committees giving reports. And I hope that as we move forward with the committees that we're on, all of us on different ones, that at some point in time, we will be able to give a report. I don't want to drag our meetings out forever, but be able to give a little bit of report on our committees. A lot of our committees only meet maybe once a quarter too. That's the other thing. So it's, it's not going to be like every every meeting we have something to report. But hopefully we can do that as we move forward with our commissioners meetings. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I just have some quick comments and a proposal that I'd like to put on the next agenda, and it has to do with our economic development project, our process. And it's something that we all were running on this during the last election season. It's very important. We know without an economy, we can't pay for anything else that we want to do. So right now, I mean, I've been looking at this for months, and I've got a lot of input from people local and at the state level and other counties that I've talked to. Right now, in my opinion, we have a very shifting, unstable structure. It's been this way since 2013, 2014. The board seems to shift and change. The board members, advisory board doesn't know from election to election what's going to happen, and it seems like it's on shifting sand. And I think it needs to have a more solid foundation to operate year after year after year. Even if the board changes, that foundation needs to be a lot more stable. We are competing with other counties. We have to start kicking butt because they're kicking our butts. We need dependable funding. And as Mr. Seep said, he took the words out of my mouth, goals. Measurable goals. Where are we? Where do we want to go? How are we going to get there? And I want people to be able to say how we're going to get there. I don't want people to tell me why we can't. I mean, we have to look at this very differently. We cannot operate in a vacuum. We are not an island. Person County is going to need help to, one, catch up, but to grow. So I think we've had negative growth for 10 years. That's not a good thing. We can't afford to operate like this. So I think we have to stop accepting the circumstances. We have to face the fact that the world is changing. It's changing fast. We can't just look at everything from 10,000 feet and make all these grandiose plans and these strategic plans and then put them on the shelf. And we need to have some action here. So what I'd like to propose is on the next meeting, we dive into, let's look at restructuring the functioning of the EDC. And that's probably going to require us looking at putting a task force together with a very tight timeline saying, look at all the options we have. How could we better structure our EDC to make our progress quicker, faster, and get our funding, whether we need a partnership, whatever method we take. We've got options around us. There's probably 4 to 6 different models of economic development projects that counties use that have been very successful. So we don't have to recreate the wheel, but let's look at what's working for other counties and try to emulate some of those things and find a task force and say, hey, we've looked at all of these things. We recommend this, and then we redesign our economic board to give us some more ability to be nimble and aggressive and really go after the business. Because I don't think we have to hit a home run all the time, but we at least need to we need to make a first down and a second down. We need progress. We have started with the Shell building. That's a good start because economic development is the county-wide thing. It's not just the mega site. It's just not the business park, but we've invested a lot of money in that mega site, and it would be foolish for us to walk away from that. Foolish for the amount of money we've invested in it. There's a way to do it. We have to find it. And so that's my comments. I'll be quiet.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn? So motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.